Let's rewind to about 15 years ago, back in 2010, in one of those bustling, expensive cities where the cost of living squeezes families like a vice. Our story centers on my best friend. Let's call her Sarah, and her husband, Mike. They were the epitome of a resilient couple. High school sweethearts who'd built a life together, raising 5 beautiful kids on a shoestring budget. Picture their home, an old, 4-bedroom rental that had seen better days. The kitchen was a nightmare. Peeling linoleum floors sticky with years of grime, cabinets that creaked like old bones, and drains that gurgled with a foul, persistent stink like something died in the pipes. The walls were thin, the paint chipped, and drafts whispered through cracks in the winter. But for $400 a week, a rate frozen in time, it was their sanctuary. They made it work with love and ingenuity. Hand-me-down furniture arranged just so, kids' artwork taped over stains, and a garden out back where Sarah grew veggies to stretch their meals. The owner? A kind-hearted elderly woman. Let's call her Mrs. Ellis. She was loaded, old money from a vast property empire, but her heart was pure gold. Mrs. Ellis adored Sarah's family. She'd watch the kids play in the yard with a warm smile, slipping them treats now and then. Knowing their struggles, she froze the rent for 5 years and made a promise that lit a fire in Sarah and Mike's eyes. Save up, dears, and I'll sell you this house at a fair price once you're ready for a loan. I've done it for others. You can trust me. It wasn't just words. Mrs. Ellis had a track record of helping folks like them climb the ladder. Sarah and Mike believed her with every fiber of their being. So they scrimped and saved relentlessly. No vacations, no dining out. Every extra cent went into a jar labeled our home. Mike picked up overtime shifts at his construction job, his hands calloused and aching by nightfall. Sarah juggled part-time work with homeschooling the kids, her eyes heavy with fatigue but sparkling with hope. "This is for our future," she'd whisper to Mike in the quiet hours, their heads bowed over bills at the kitchen table. 5 grueling years later, they did it. Sarah's voice trembled with excitement as she called Mrs. Ellis. "We're ready. We can get the loan now." The old lady's response was warm, full of pride. "Wonderful, my dear. Let's make it official." But fate, cruel and untimely, intervened. 2 days later, Mrs. Ellis passed away peacefully in her sleep. No paperwork signed, no legal ties, just a verbal promise evaporated like morning mist. Sarah collapsed on the couch when she heard, tears streaming down her face, her body shaking with sobs. "What now?" she whispered to Mike, who pulled her close, his own eyes glistening. The kids, sensing the shift, huddled around, their little faces etched with confusion. The family's dream hung by a thread, that familiar knot of powerlessness twisting in their guts, the kind that makes your chest ache and your fists clench uselessly. Enter the antagonists. Mrs. Ellis's 4 adult children, heirs to her fortune, each one wealthier than the last. These weren't struggling siblings. They were titans of industry, real estate moguls, investors, the kind who sipped champagne in penthouses while their accountants tallied millions. Picture them, polished suits, manicured hands that had never known manual labor, faces set in perpetual smirks of entitlement. When they first contacted Sarah and Mike, their voices dripped with false sympathy over the phone. "We're so sorry about Mother. But don't worry, the sale will go through. Just wait for probate to settle." Sarah clung to that like a lifeline, her heart pounding with tentative relief. "They sound reasonable," she told me, her voice hopeful but edged with doubt. Confident, the family started small improvements, stripping faded wallpaper that peeled like old skin, slapping on fresh paint in cheerful colors, dreaming aloud about turning the rundown space into a true home. The kids chattered excitedly. "This will be my room." Mike sketched plans for a new kitchen, his eyes lighting up for the first time in weeks. But as probate dragged on, months of legal limbo, the heirs' true colors bled through. Whispers reached Sarah through mutual acquaintances, the siblings squabbling over the portfolio, each greedy for their slice. Tension built like storm clouds. Sarah's sleep grew restless, plagued by nightmares of eviction notices. What if they changed their minds? She'd confide in me over coffee. her hands wringing a napkin to shreds, dark circles under her eyes speaking volumes of her inner turmoil. Finally, probate cleared. The heirs called. We're good to go at the agreed price. Sarah and Mike rushed to the bank, hearts soaring. But the loan officer's face fell as he reviewed the details. I'm sorry, he said, shifting uncomfortably. The asking price is $80,000 higher now. Sarah's world tilted. She gripped the desk, knuckles white, a wave of nausea rising. The heirs had jacked up the price without a word. Pure gazumping, that slimy tactic where sellers accept your offer then flip to a higher bidder. To twist the knife, they announced an open house in 7 days, throwing the property to the market wolves. In that booming economy, it would sell fast. Devastation crashed over Sarah and Mike like a tidal wave. They sat at their kitchen table that night, heads in hands, the room heavy with silence broken only by Sarah's quiet sobs. We've saved everything for this, Mike muttered, his voice cracking, fists pounding the table in futile rage. The kids, overhearing, crept in with wide eyes, the youngest clinging to Sarah's leg, asking, Are we losing our home, Mommy? Property prices had skyrocketed. Rents for anything bigger than 2 bedrooms were now unaffordable. Eviction loomed like a guillotine. Powerlessness engulfed them. That soul-crushing feeling of being toyed with by the powerful. Their dreams dangled, then snatched away for greed. I was their best friend, watching this unfold, my own blood boiling. Incandescent anger surged through me, chest tight, face hot, pacing my living room like a caged animal. Those bastards, I thought, teeth gritted. Multimillionaires screwing over a family for pocket change. $20, 000 each? They don't need it. It's just avarice. The heirs' smug assurance infuriated me. They probably chuckled over wine, plotting this from day one, viewing Sarah's family as disposable tenants. Not on my watch. I resolved a fire igniting in my belly. Sympathy for my friends fueled my determination. They deserve this home. I'll make sure those greedmongers pay. While Sarah and Mike scrambled for loans, begging banks, calling relatives, their voices strained with desperation, I plotted in secret. Researching home selling tips online, I flipped them. What makes a house desirable? Do the opposite subtly without implicating my friends. Uncluttered spaces sell, so we cluttered. We shoved furniture against walls, borrowed knickknacks, hung motorcycle posters till rooms felt claustrophobic, shadows swallowing space. Smells matter. Fresh and clean closes deals. So, Sarah boiled cabbage, its sour steam curling through vents like a fog of despair. I sprayed ammonia at doors. Sharp, urine-like whiffs mimicking cat territory wars. Worst, 24 rotten eggs down drains, unleashing a sewer gas stench that made eyes water, noses wrinkle. God, it reeks, Mike gagged but grinned fiercely. Perfect. Neighborhood vibe seals sales. Quiet streets attract families. We disrupted. A moldy couch dumped in the opposite yard, with permission, screaming trashy area. Friends with beat-up cars lapped the block during open house. Engines roaring, exhaust puffing, turning the street into a noisy drag strip. Keep it coming, I texted, heart racing with adrenaline. Crowning glory, rugby mates, burly giants in leather vests, tattoos peeking, invited to a barbecue next door. Cheap beer flowed, grills sizzled with charred meat, laughter booming like thunder. Motorcycles gleamed in the yard, intimidating spectacle. Act natural. I whispered, nerves tingling but resolve steel hard. Make it look like this is normal. Open house day, dawn tense. The real estate agent arrived, nose twitching at the odors, but proceeded. Buyers trickled in, couples in crisp clothes, investors with clipboards. But chaos reigned. One whiff of the egg-drained funk, and faces contorted in disgust. What is that smell? A woman gasped, hand over mouth, bolting out. The cluttered rooms felt oppressive. Buyers bumped elbows, murmuring too small. Outside, cars revved relentlessly, horns blaring. The biker barbecue roared. Laughter echoed. Smoke billowed. Massive men high-fiving like a rowdy fortress. A potential buyer lingered, chatting with a partner. These gatherings happen often? The reply, casual. Every couple weeks. Last night's bash was 3 doors down. Oh, and those drains? Always blocking, stinking up the block. The buyer's eyes widened in horror. He fled without bidding. Most visitors dashed in and out, cars peeling away. One lady sat in her vehicle, staring at the spectacle, then drove off shaking her head. Sarah and Mike, watching from afar, submitted their offer, higher than planned but below the heirs' greed. Paper signed, deposit paid that day, when a brave bidder offered $30,000 more. Too late, anti-gazumping laws locked it in. I imagine the heirs' faces, jaws dropping, eyes bulging in shock, furious calls flying. What happened? How did it sell so low? Their anger must have boiled over, but powerless now. For me, pure triumph, a rush of validation, relief flooding like cool water on fire. Sarah hugged me, tears of joy. We did it. Their family's safe, dream intact. Man, stories like this remind us that greed has a price, and sometimes the underdogs bite back hardest. Karma isn't always instant, but when fueled by justice, it's unstoppable. Makes you wonder, how far would you go to protect your loved ones from the powerful? If this tale of sabotage and sweet victory had you grinning from ear to ear or fist pumping for the little guys, hit that like button hard and subscribe for more Reddit revenge epics that'll keep your justice craving satisfied. Spill in the comments. What's the most devious way you've seen greed backfire? Let's swap stories down there. I read everyone. Thanks for tuning in. See you in the next payback adventure.